for your contributions. Doing good comes in many forms, so we recognize and celebrate them all. Today is Earth Day. I take pride in knowing that one of the greatest gifts we can offer to our planet as Kiwanis Hope and Foundation is investing in the next generation of leaders. Looking at our PowerPoint presentation, Interclub with Tokyo is tonight. And I've got because I'm old, I've got my alarm set for 10:45 p.m. so I can realistically take a nap and get back up. But 11 p.m. tonight, we've got a pretty powerful list of people joining us from Tokyo, whether they're past presidents, past governors. They're looking for a pretty serious discussion of how we are navigating this environment. And I'm excited. We'll have a majority of their members are fluent in English. Everybody who joins will have an opportunity to introduce themselves. And that's kind of big news for Jay Brill and Taka up in the Lafayette Club. We appreciate everybody. Next week for Mr. Doug Bowles, that's going to be the Interclub where the Augusta, Georgia club is joining us. They opened up their club for the Masters, so we are presenting the Motor Speedway as one of our signature speakers. Please join us May 6th for Greg McCauley. Our in-person meeting May 13th is going to be a Kiwanis connection. So no formal speaker. We'll just get used to seeing each other in 3 dimensions again. May 20th, Barry Collier. And then looking out into June 10th, My Octopus Teacher, presented by the zoo. And then Bart Peterson, mid-June, after our golf outing. If you would like to make a donation to the club, we will get that link presented into the chat. Pat just asked how we can join the Tokyo Zoom. So embedded in the Monday morning weekly email, if you go about 3/4 of the way down, there is the Zoom link there. And Pat, I'll separately email that to you also. So touching on the Tokyo Club, if there's any facet of Kiwanis's global reach that you'd like to hear more about, we've heard Jeff Otis talk about the hands-on impact in India. I think it'd be fascinating to hear about some of their clubs, especially with the global news they're making with COVID cases, unfortunately. But if there's any place you want to learn more about, email myself or Jay Brill, and we'll get that going. Trina Rauterbush is looking for a few judges for the Marion County High School Female Athlete Scholarship Awards, awarded July 15th. It'll be a few hours, and reading the applications is truly worth that investment. Having seen that award ceremony in person at Clues Hall is pretty neat evening. In honor of Mr. Marbaugh, we have started a new Kiwanis Spirit Award. This is going to go to a true advocate of the Kiwanis enthusiasm, passion, and willingness to go above and beyond, the unconditional commitment and the eagerness to share our mission with others. If there is anyone you'd like to nominate, just let myself or Kelly know. I am going to turn it over to, I'm not sure if Roger is introducing Miss Kaylee or Pat is, the president of the University of Indianapolis Circle K Club.
I believe that's Pat.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure. So Kaylee, I hope you can hear me. Pat McCrory here. And I'm a graduate of University of Indianapolis, and actually I'm going down in a couple weeks with my 17-year-old daughter to go to University of Indianapolis potentially, although we're also looking at vet tech at other places like Purdue. So with that, Kaylee, why don't you take it away and tell us about yourself and what you've been doing at U of I this past year.
Hi, everybody. So like Pat said, my name is Kaylee. I'm the president of University of Indianapolis's chapter of Circle K. This year, we have had a lot of struggles with the service aspect of it because we weren't allowed to go off of campus. So we had to kind of figure things out in and of ourselves. And we were only allowed one in-person meeting a month. So we focused a lot on fellowship and trying to bring people together throughout all of this. And a lot of people weren't on campus. They lived at home, stuff like that. So we tried to do a lot of online things. I know we did like a movie night where we all went on Zoom and someone shared their screen and we did a movie and we watched a movie together. We played a lot of games. We learned a lot of online gaming places where we could all play together. So we did a lot of that. We had a lot of chats on our Monday night meetings where we just kind of vented to each other and got it all out and bonded, essentially. But service-wise, we did have, in the beginning of the school year, we had a campus cleanup where we went out with some garbage bags and some gloves and we just picked up trash all around and stuff. And we were going to have one on Saturday in spirit of Earth Day being today, but it's supposed to rain all day on Saturday. So we're not really sure if that's going to happen anymore. I hope it does. It's going to be great, but we'll see, weather permitting. We also made blankets for the Ronald McDonald House in the beginning of the semester. That was super fun. It was great to go and drop them off and everything. We made homeless bags. We started making plarn, and then we made some teacher notes back last semester, which my mom is a kindergarten teacher, so we gave them to her and she handed out to all of her friends, and they loved it because it's hard doing virtual learning when you're a kindergarten teacher, like kindergartners don't want to pay attention to anything and they're struggling. So we felt that it would be good to give them a little boost. Let's see. And then we also had some fundraisers that we did this year. We did Fun Pasta fundraising last semester, which was a huge success. We planned on raising $300 and we ended up raising $324, which is crazy because in order to do that, we had to raise like $800 in sales to get like our portion of it. So that was awesome. We had a great time with that. And then this semester we had a Chipotle fundraiser and we ended up raising around $90 from that. Not as great, but still something, still a little dent. Another thing that we did service-wise was for Valentine's Day, there was a thing going around online that you could make Valentine's Day cards for kids at St. Jude's. So we did that. We had a blast with that. It was something that we could do virtually where we just kind of sent out the link and people told us that they did it, showed us that they did it and stuff like that. And that was a lot of fun. A lot of people made quite a few of those cards and we didn't get to give them to the kids, but at least we felt like we were making a difference. Next year, we hope to do a lot more in person. We still don't know if things are going to be in person or not, but we are fingers crossed, hoping that we can actually meet up and do service things and do like inner clubs with IUPUI and stuff like that, and actually go to our leadership conferences and stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty much overall of what we did this semester.
So did you have any time to study for school or?
Yeah. I'm majoring in psychology with a concentration in occupational therapy, and I have a minor in child and youth development studies, and I'm in honors college. So my life is pretty busy, but my roommate is the vice president of Circle K, and she is the exact same thing as me. So we work a lot together and do a lot of classes together. So that's kind of, we do everything.
No, that's great. We appreciate your work, your hard work, and your club's hard work. If you end up staying in Indianapolis after you graduate, please look us up. We'd love to have you as a new member. Seems like you're somewhat dedicated to the Kiwanis cause. And thanks again for joining us. Thanks for Roger and Pat's work. I am going to turn it over to Miss Trina Raudebush, who will introduce Clay Chafin with Bradford Woods.
Thank you. So as Eric mentioned, our speaker today is Clay Chafin from Bradford Woods. I don't know how many of you have been down to the property. I think the first time I went was in 4th grade, went there again in high school, and then summer of 2019. Time has lost sort of its structure for Mickey's camp. So it's been really great to revisit some childhood memories. And that's part of what he creates down there are those memories and experiences. Their focus is to improve the quality of life for people of all backgrounds and abilities using their unique outdoor setting to provide education, therapy, and recreation. He'll go into the impact of the 65 years that they've been providing services, but they provide recreation, education, leadership development opportunities to youth and adults locally, nationally, and globally. We're super lucky to have them in our backyard. They unite all of the programs and education under the banner of Outdoors for All, empowering youth and adults of all backgrounds and abilities through transformative outdoor experiences. It should be no surprise that he enjoys playing golf, hunting, and spending time with his family and friends, and really doing anything outdoors. Prior to coming to Bradford Woods, he had experience as the Director of Parks and Recreation for the town of Plainfield. He's worked for an aquatics manufacturer and an athletic supplier, as well as the city of Greenwood. I could go on and on, but I think we would rather hear from Clay himself. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to virtually meet you all. And I too yearn for those days where we have in-person meetings and we can, get together and just kind of enjoy each other's company. So I'll try to do a share screen here and see how well that goes. And if I end up having a challenge, I may then, Trina, pull on you to help me out here. So let's see.
We'll wing it.
Screen 3. And from the beginning. All right. Did that show up on everybody's screen, the presentation?
You look good.
Or you're not seeing my email inbox?
No, not yet.
There you go. That's awesome. So, well, thank you for the introduction. And yes, I've been at Bradford Woods now for about 2.5 years after spending the previous 20 plus years in, public service, mostly working for municipalities in the park and recreation industry. So that's kind of been my task all my life, is to work in a position that serves the community in which I live. And when the position came open here at Bradford Woods, Trina, you mentioned coming as a fifth grader or as an elementary school age student. I did the same back in the late 70s. So it's kind of odd to go full circle and come back and know that, hey, I'm now leading an organization that's been going for that long of time period, and we're still focused on serving people of all abilities and backgrounds. Trina, as you mentioned in the intro there, and we also try to empower all of our clients, and depending upon the type of client that we're working with, there's usually an educational component too, and then we relay how we're all stewards of the environment, and how we're trying to celebrate and protect our natural resources, and then being a part of Indiana University, we're trying to advance our field of practice through research and innovation. So it's really a unique place to work for sure. We put in here, it's beyond the traditional classroom experience. Our Bradford Woods is located between Mooresville and Martinsville on Highway 67. It's a small 2,500 acre property. So not very many people realize that we have such a large footprint, but we've got about 55 buildings. We've got a swimming pool that it was built in the 70s, so it's a little antiquated, but at the time it was cutting edge because it had a ramp into the pool, and so we also have an equine center, an amphitheater, 110 acre lake. And one of the things Bradford Woods is known for is its universal design. So no matter what your ability, you can basically get anywhere that you want to on our property and enjoy the site and the amenities, or have access to the buildings. One of the things that I always relay to folks is that Bradford Woods is a part of Indiana University, and as being a part of Indiana University, we're an auxiliary services division. So what that means is we basically got to float our own boat. So all of our revenue is generated through fee for service or through donations. And so, there's not necessarily a subsidy that comes from the university. They do help us out with some construction projects or some maintenance projects from time to time, but we're basically trying to operate on a budget where our revenues exceed our expenses annually. And the last couple of years, I'll tell you that was not not very easy to do. It was darn near impossible. When the pandemic hit, we shut down for all of 2020, and we have slowly started to integrate some programming and hosting of different groups and companies and retreats and those types of things. And so we're on a slow jog, I guess, if you will, to get back to our normal pace of operation. Quickly, just to kind of let you guys know some of the things that we do. Trina, you mentioned the environmental education. We still work with a ton of school corporations and school groups. We've been doing that for a number of years. We have some school groups that have been our partners for over 55 years. The Monroe County School Corporation, the Martinsville School Corporation have been sending fifth graders through high schoolers for environmental education to Bradford Woods for over 55 years. And that's still one of the staples that we do every spring and every fall. We see buses coming and going, and we bring kids in. What used to be a 5-day experience has been somewhat condensed now to where schools will come on Monday and leave on Wednesday, or come on Wednesday and leave on Friday. And you'll have groups that'll stay in cabins, and then we'll take them through an environmental education initiative through those handful of days. And some of the kids, for some of the schools, this is really the only chance that they get to be in nature. So a lot of the kids that live in a neighborhood, or they live in maybe a more urban setting, they really, really thrive out here in this environment and really come to love it. And it makes memories that last a lifetime. One of the other things that we do is adventure education. We do that in a combination of ways. We'll do that both with school systems and with corporations and companies, that if you're interested in a team building type of program, or something that will allow you to bring the group together, we can facilitate those types of programs. And what we'll do is we'll send you out some information to say, hey, what are you trying to achieve? And then we'll cater a program to facilitate outcomes that you desire for your group, whether it's you're working on trust, or you're working on communication, or whatever that may be. We can put your team through those types of activities, and we have the on-site housing accommodations and food service that can host up to about 300 folks. So then the big thing that we do in the summer is recreation therapy. Our big partner on that is Camp Riley. We do camps and programs for youth and adults with different physical and cognitive diagnosis. That also, I'll get into that a little bit more. That also bleeds into some of our therapeutic outdoor programs, where we're working with a variety of outcomes for families, military veterans, youth. We work with Wounded Warrior projects, some of the Indiana Department of Children's Services. So we serve hundreds of youth and military families and veterans each year in those outdoor programs. And then we do some retreats where we just allow corporate clients to utilize meeting space and some of our food services. And we talked about Camp Riley. Camp Riley for over 65 years. We've been working with Camp Riley, and last year we didn't get to do Camp Riley for the first time, and we're not going to be able to do it again at the advice of our Indiana University guidance and medical team. We're going to delay our medical camps again this summer. We're super sad that we can't do that, because we have a really passionate staff that lives for camp. And I didn't mean to do that, but with Camp Riley, we have about 10 different camps that we host each year with Riley Hospital and the Riley Children's Foundation. And it's, you know, we do everything from archery and arts and crafts, basketball, canoeing. You know, we're trying to focus on building confidence, breaking barriers. It's really funny that, not funny, but you can tell the difference between a family that drops off a child for camp the first year versus multiple years. The first year, they'll bring a 3-ring binder or more than one 3-ring binder, and they'll want to sit down and go through it with us and tell us everything that we need to do about their child. In year 2, the car barely hits park before they're tagging us and saying, "You got it, we'll see you in a week." So it's really fun to watch those first year parents versus second, third, or the veterans, right? That, you know, the kids just love it. And that week of respite for the family members is such a valuable tool. In addition to Riley, we partner with Little Red Door, you know, Camp Rocks for those kids on the autism spectrum. We do Champ Camp for those kids with tracheotomies and breathing assisted devices. And then we work with MDA for muscular dystrophy. And the reason I showed you this picture here, I brought it up. One of my fondest memories is my first year here. We partner with Rehabilitation Hospital of Indianapolis in the summer to do water skiing. And we do water skiing for those kids with Camp Riley. And we have a ski that it's set up to where you got a middle ski, and then we have 2 skis that are kind of welded to the side as wings. And the tow rope comes out, and you can see right here, this camper is strong enough to hold on to the rope himself. But there's that ball you see right in front of him that actually goes into the ski setup. And I remember going down one year, and this girl who she lives in a power chair for the most part and does everything in a power chair. And so we pick her up out of the chair, and we put her into this ski. And you remember that time when you were in line the very first time to ride a roller coaster, and you're like, "I got to do this, man. I can't do this. I got to do this." And the closer you got, you were scared, but you couldn't back out. She was kind of that way. And she gets in there and she's looking at us like, "Are you sure this is going to be all right?" And she takes off on that ski, and about 50 yards out, you see one arm go up. And then another 50 yards, you see the other arm go up. As that boat's rounding the corner, you hear her screaming for joy. And so the whole trip around our lake, she's having this just great experience. And she gets off, and we help her get out of the ski. And she's like, "This is the greatest day of my life. Can I go again?" And so you have days like that, and you're like, "Man, this is totally awesome, and totally, you know, what we're here to do." You know, same thing with scuba diving. There are kids that we work with that are come to camp that would never have the opportunity to do something like scuba diving ever, except at Camp Riley. And so those are experiences that we offer that are just they're memories that last a lifetime. I've heard more than one parent say every time their car turns on Highway 67, their kid thinks they're coming to camp because they know this is the route. And so they don't take that route unless they have to, because they don't want to disappoint their camp. So one of the things too that I wanted to bring up to you guys is that we're in the process of doing some fundraising, and we are starting to gain some ground up until the point where our, you know, the pandemic hit us, and we have a facility that is in the middle of the woods. And so a lot of the things that we have in terms of our 55 buildings and our swimming pool and our health center and our dining hall and amphitheater and arts and crafts buildings and some of our meeting spaces, we're in the process of trying to raise some funds to bring those up to where they're in better shape than what they are. They're still safe and they're still universally designed, but a lot of things need a facelift, where our siding is starting to show some wear and tear. Our roofs are getting to the point where they've reached their life cycle. And, you know, then we have the amphitheater and some of the areas along it that they just look, they need that facelift, that touch up where masonry and brickwork needs to be done. And so we're at the point where we're starting to do some fundraising needs. And, you know, we have a fishing dock right now that we have a group that we're working with that needs to be repaired. The last flood that we had raised the lake to the level where it torqued it, and we're in the process of replacing it. And so we always, if you have a group or a grant, or if you're affiliated with a company that has some philanthropic desires, whether it's to bring a group of coworkers down and have a team building event and kind of help us do some work on property, or if you have some funds that you would want to utilize, just wanted to let you know we have an opportunity for you. So there's that, and it's a long process. Like I said, here's 5 years and beyond down the road, but once we resume full operation, we hope to do so sometime this fall and continue to build on it in the spring, and next summer again work with the Riley, the Children's Foundation and the hospital to offer camp, plus some of our partnering groups will be able to hopefully continue to generate revenue, and then start focusing again on our fundraising efforts, because we know it's been tough on a lot of companies as well. Some of the things that we have that we look, and I always think it's kind of cool, because you don't see this in a lot of spaces. If you're doing a team building event, a lot of times you're on the ground or in a room, and you're not trying to figure out how to communicate, work with each other to build that confidence or that trust. And so I like showing some of these events, because it's kind of hard to say, hey, we got an Alpine tower. Well, what's an Alpine tower? Or we have some other apparatus that teams and companies like to bring their staff out, because it's unique and it's fun. So I know I went through that pretty quick. I thought I'd allow a lot more time for question and answers, and if you I'm still sharing the screen, aren't I?
You are, and while you are, do you mind clicking back on slide 5 for the water ski picture? I think it was
Yes.
still on your opening slide when you were talking about it, and it's a phenomenal picture.
That's one of my favorite pictures ever. So we have when we have the water ski day, we put a photographer in the boat, and so we get a lot of really cool pictures. And that picture is one of my favorites, because that's typical of that day. And it's a 2-day event, and it's just, if you ever wanted to come out and see what's going on at Bradford Woods, just to kind of see what a day and what an impact a day might have, get with me, because it's one of the coolest days that we have of the year, where we're able to work with RHI and do that.
Can you touch on the team building a little bit? If a company wants to come down, if there are minimums or some of the options for the team building, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we try to do is cater it to whatever your needs are. So what we'll do is we'll send you basically a questionnaire, and it lists a variety of options, whether you're trying to work on trust, or whether you're trying to work on communication, or whatever that initiative might be. Then we can say, okay, we can focus it, we can do it, a handful of different ways. So if you're trying to work on communication, we can take you down to the beach. We can give you 4 barrels, 2 2x10s, and a bunch of rope, and say, build a raft and go across the lake and come back. And you have to communicate on how to build that raft and how to get over there and come back. It's kind of old school thinking, but what we're trying to do is we're, in certain aspects, you can take technology away, because we live in such a world where we're emailing, or we're texting, or we're having Zoom meetings, that sometimes that face-to-face communication is one that really needs fine-tuning and work. And so we give opportunities for teams to do that. A couple of years ago, I remember Butler University brought their basketball team down, and it was kind of funny seeing 6'10" guys sleep on a really small bed. I felt a little sorry for them, hanging over the edges, but they did just that. They were trying to work on that trust and that team building, and getting out of silos, and making sure that everybody was one family type unit. So Eric, I think that's an opportunity that if you were interested, we could say, hey, here's this questionnaire, and we can do it through some of those ground-based initiatives like you saw on that, where you got whale platform, and you got to figure out how to get it to balance, and everybody steps in unison or works together, or we can do it through other types of programming opportunities, whether it's at the lake or whether it's, just utilizing some of the other trails or shelters or some of the other facilities that we might have, or team building, whether it's being, you could build a shelter. There's different varieties. So it's not a one size fits all. We'll cater to whatever you're trying to achieve.
Is there a minimum number of people?
No, not particularly.
No, that's great. Now, so curiously, what is the level of participation from the IU students themselves?
We have not last year before last, we had about 55 groups come out from IU. So that was either, that could either been administrative groups or class groups or fraternities and sororities, or it varied. So we had about 55 unique Indiana University groups that would come out. And it varied from team building events like this, where we have groups that come out and we work on communication and trust and those types of things, or it was just they rented a space and they held their own meeting and then did self-led hikes or went fishing or whatever the case might have been.
And then one of the questions, are there still internships available for IU students?
There are not this year. We have in the past because our operation has been put on hold. We do, in the summer, right now we have 21 full-time staff members, and we have in the summer we'll have well over 100, part-time or hourly staff members. So we do a lot of internships in our recreation therapy department for those students that are running their CRTS or other, certifications in the therapeutic industry. We also have a handful of internships that may be offered for other aspects of leisure and tourism and or recreation that we could utilize students in the administration side of our operation.
So has there been any development offering programs virtually?
Yeah,
you can't replicate what you're trying to do outdoors, but
a little bit. We've done a handful of team building events that were facilitation through Zoom. We get the whiteboard out and do an icebreaker where it was a Pictionary event where, hey, draw a picture of your animal or your pet and let us try to guess the name type thing, and doing different things like that. But it really hasn't exploded, because I think there's almost a level where companies, and at the time teams, were almost in Zoom fatigue, where they were having so many meetings on Zoom that they really there wasn't the value in the team building aspect of a virtual team building event. We've had some success going to schools or going to companies and doing events there, or meeting them at a park, or some of them were coming out here because we were able to keep social distancing and spacing and those types of things, and those have started to creep back up. But we have had a handful of virtual events, and the ones that we've done, we've had a lot of great feedback on.
so does the American Camping Association still have their headquarters on the property, or is there a broader affiliation there?
No, well, yeah, the ACA, the American Camp Association, still has their headquarters on our property. They haven't moved or haven't changed, and so they've been doing a lot of national research on camps and trying to put out guidelines and best practices for camps throughout the country. We're unique in that we're not an independent camp, and we have that Indiana University affiliation. So a lot of our policies and procedures, or all of them, are dictated through IU. It's great to have ACA, the American Camp Association, as a resource to then provide IU's folks to say, hey, we're also getting this information that we can share with them, that they can then use in considerations for what we're doing. We're a unique animal for IU. There's no other operation in the university that does what we do, or has the setting that we have, or the environment that we have, or the relationships that we have with some of our partners. So yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, ACA still has an operation. we used to have an equine therapy partner. They were Agape. They have last fall decided to condense and consolidate their operation into one location. So they pulled out, and we're in the process right now of trying to find an equine therapy partner to provide those services for our summer camps. Kids like the gentleman you see here on the ski, you know, we also allow those campers to ride a horse. And it's probably the only time that they'll ever get a chance to ride a horse in their life, except for when they come to camp for the week. So we're in the process of trying to find an equine therapy partner. We also use the equine therapy for a lot of our therapeutic outdoor programming. The Wounded Warrior program is a huge user of equine therapy. Our Department of Children's Services partnership that we have and the therapeutic programs that we do with those families, the equine therapy is such an impactful part of that program as well.
And then I had taken my family down to Clifty Falls over the week, and looking at Bradford Woods page also, when you get a little south of the city, it feels like you're in an entirely different time zone. Could you just touch on a little bit of the history of the park and any unique topography or anything we should know about the area?
Yeah, so Bradford Woods came about when the Bradford brothers donated the property to Herman B. Wells. And so that transpired because the Bradfords, they had the property and they basically hit it rich in mining sand. They found that they had a very unique property in that there was a lot of springs and a lot of natural sand, and they basically mined sand and gained their wealth mining sand. So as you pass the property, the big brick house that you see at the top of the hill is we call it the Manor House. It was the Bradford Manor. And so they essentially decided to donate the property to the university with the thought that it would serve kids. And we first started offering camps for kids with polio back in the 50s. And that's how camp started. And we've always kept the focus on serving kids. And in the camps in the summer, those medical camps that started with polio and has evolved into, you know, what they are today, where we have kids with a variety of disabilities, both cognitive and physical, that you know, we'll have camps where the ratio is 1-to-1, a camper to a healthcare provider, and then all the way up to Camp Riley. It's called Riley 3 or Venture, which is what this young man on your screen goes attended, and it's campers that kind of have that 1-to-3 ratio, that they're somewhat independent. You know, we have camps for kids with Down syndrome, sickle cell anemia, those on the autism spectrum. We'll partner with Little Red Door for kids with, you know, cancer and their families. So it's that focus has remained from that initial time where the Bradfords donated it to Mr. Wells.
So then, Clay, how did you get interested in this line of serving the community?
Well, so whenever I was at IU, I was on the IU Kelly School of Business track, and I had a conversation with my dad at the time. I'm like, Dad, I don't think I can get a job where I work in an office and look out the window. And he said, well, if you're going to change, do something in a career that impacts the lives of those in the community in which you live. And so I you know, my dad was in banking, and he liked the personal interaction with individuals. And so I changed, and I got into the park and recreation field initially out of college, and so doing that, and I just kind of stayed in it. I also, you know, for a time worked for athletic equipment manufacturers, and then always came back to this type of a position in a role, and that's where I just, you know, I really like when the girl got out of the chair a couple of years ago here from skiing and said, this was the best day of my life. I mean, I tear up today still thinking about it 2 years ago, because it just hit me hard. And that's why I love what I do. And when the job came open here at IU, knowing what we do, it was a no-brainer for me just to continue to try to serve in that capacity.
I am going to call on Tom Dunham. Tom, do you mind talking a little bit about our adaptive bikes? I feel like there's a little commonality between Kiwanis and what Bradford Woods is trying to do. So, Clay, we will provide these custom adaptive bikes to an individual each year, where they cost around $5,000 a piece. But to your point, it's pretty inspiring hearing these kids talk about riding a bike for the first time in their life. But the project's been led by Mr. Tom Dunham for a number of years. I'm going to let him talk for a second.
Well, it's really been a thrill to me throughout the years to see these kids receive a bike and ride on a bike for the first time. There's so many kids out there in neighborhoods, probably your own neighborhood too, sitting on the porch in the summertime in a chair and watching their friends ride by on bicycles. And that doesn't have to be. They can have a bicycle. And these bicycles are custom made for each child, depending on what kind of illness he or she has. So, like I say, it's really been a thrill all these years to participate in it and talk to the parents and see the kids firsthand, and the reaction that we've gotten every time they get on a bike. So I would just encourage Kiwanians, if you see a kid in your neighborhood or any place that needs a bike, Kiwanis would like to know about it. We have limited funds. The district did have funds to circumvent some of this, but they don't have any anymore. So it's between our Kiwanis Foundation in Indianapolis downtown and myself to do the funding, plus the Kiwanis clubs throughout the state of Indiana to try and service some of the funds and come forth with some of the dollars that will make these kids happy. So if you haven't seen a kid on an adaptive bike firsthand, I hope you get the opportunity to see one. We've had several send in photos and videos and so on of them riding a bike. There was one recently, and that's quite heartwarming, I'll tell you that.
No, thanks, Tom. So, Clay, have you adapted anything on how your organization is using social media as you've had more time on your hands the last year?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to use that more as a tool to communicate with our families and those that support Bradford Woods. And a lot of what we do was postponed because of the pandemic, and so a lot of our sharing of activities and events, was limited. You can only post a picture of a tree so often and ask people to tell you what kind of tree it is. So we're trying to get creative in that regard. Yeah. But I think that's where it's going. And the staff that we have on our team right now are focusing on that, actually, Eric, to say, hey, as this spring and this summer rolls around, how can we better communicate what our needs are? We were trying to do a fundraising event here this past April. We'd done one a couple years ago. Last year we did it virtually. It was okay. We were starting down that road to do a virtual fundraiser again this year, and we decided, you know what? Let's just postpone it and let's put all our efforts into having an in-person event gala next year. But that social media aspect is it's definitely a part of our marketing plan.
And then as far as the world being vaccinated, yay or nay, have you all developed any COVID updates as everyone is now able to get their vaccines?
Well, yeah, we're operating under IU's guidance on that. So we're kind of waiting for them to, they're going to take the lead and tell us kind of what we can and can't do. Right now, we're able to have programs and activities and events for the day. We don't have any medical type events, but and no overnights no overnight stay type events. But we've had a number of school groups in over the last couple of weeks and over the next few weeks that they're coming in for the day. We'll do an environmental education program and then they bust them out at night. Then they'll bring another group in the next day instead of the typical 2 or 3 night stay. But in terms of what's going to happen, we're hopeful that this fall that our operations turn to somewhat semi-normal with overnights, with capacity limitations being lifted, and operations, returning to similar to what they were prior to. I don't think we'll ever be exactly the same. We'll have to, some of the modifications that we've made may become permanent, but I think in terms of that, we're just waiting on the university to tell us, hey, this is how to roll out. Right now, everybody, still wears masks and operates with, distancing guidelines and such, but it's slowly starting to I don't want to say loosen up, but change.
And then are there any similar facilities around the country that you really look to for inspiration? I mean, it sounds like you've got your toes in everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of properties like Clemson University has an outdoor education center that's similar to ours. Purdue has Tecumseh, which is a smaller scale, but similar. Not everybody, some folks do the camping side of it or the environmental education side of it. Some of them will do the medical camping or the recreation therapy side, but very few have the capacity and broad brush touch that we have. So it's, we pick a little bit from here and there and try to, learn best practices and stay up on industry trends. Especially, we have all the climbing apparatuses that we have. And so, our toes are in a little bit of everything, like you say. A lot of folks look to us for guidance and reach out to us for guidance in that regard.
Well, congratulations on your success and thanks for all your hard work. The state owes you a lot of gratitude. A donation will be made in your name to Trinity Haven, First of Its Kind program in Indianapolis, providing long-term housing to LGBTQ youth. Please join us next week for Doug Bowles from IMS. We are trying to get this to be our largest Zoom yet. Jay Brill has about 10 other clubs joining us. So we're going to try to push the capacity of our 100-person Zoom limit. Thanks again, Clay, for your time today. It means a lot to us. We'll leave the Zoom open until 1 o'clock if people want to talk, but we'll let everybody get on to their next Zoom and meetings adjourned. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again.